Alright guys, another live stream continuation conversations that's been taking place so far on this channel. Man with a camera. So obviously since you've got like this legislation that's been put in place, and obviously a lot of the things that obviously went on with the censorship about the topic and just how much of an impact that it's obviously had on people's lives, their mental well-being, and their freedoms, their civil liberties, and the freedom to assemble and to just be able to think for ourselves, make our own decisions, not that we're being forced to do things because of government overreach. But it's brought out a lot of public investigators, people that obviously don't believe what the mainstream media are saying, and that's a big problem. People can't trust our media, we can't trust our police forces, that we don't feel as though they have of the community as what they're protecting. If anything, they're more concerned about themselves, and so we've got this kind of us versus them. But so we are back to the start of our message. So we've now got man with a camera. He's standing outside your premises, just doing an investigation, and a lot of them were peacefully exercising that right. If they didn't want people to have cameras on their phones, then they wouldn't sell phones with cameras. And they wouldn't even sell cameras, because you can buy a camera and it not be attached to your cell phone. So all of this is it's like going to buy a pint of Guinness and then you step outside the shop, or you're inside the shop still and you go to take a drink of it, and they say, "Oh well, no, hold up, what are you doing? You can't do that." Well, what do you mean? I just bought this thing so that I could use it. Like what? I could enjoy it. Why now are you telling me that I need to drink it for a straw, or you're telling me that it's illegal, and yet you sold me this thing. It don't make no sense. Well, it does, because of censorship, because of draconian rulership over the people. That I think they have freedoms, but rights, you have to flex your rights. You have to exercise your rights. And if you don't exercise your rights, then your rights would be taken away from you. And this is going, so now you're an auditor you're an activist, you're a public investigator, working for the people. The people like the people are the people that are paying for this content. So you're not. Yeah, you're not following. You're not necessarily following the narrative that's being given to all these multiple different news media places, and yet a lot of them are owned by the same person, and certain topics and certain people, um, they can't they can't get that airtime because it's not good for the beast. And so illegal activity, somebody that's following section 33, time, place, and manner, is not being adhered to because they deem your behavior as terrorism. That what you're doing by investigating and by basically doing a police's job, or like the news media's job, trying to be unbiased, just bring forth the news or like the situation, and then obviously people can go cry about the semantics for however long afterward. But obviously the main focus of it all is like that people's human rights are being respected, regardless of who it is, and that obviously that all goes for illegals. I'm not saying what they're doing right now with the illegals is right, but I think that to some extent they need, yeah, they deserve, obviously they deserve human rights as much as we do, because that's what we fought for in previous wars. This is the whole idea of democracy, but obviously that's just something that they wanted to use for a time until it no longer served the purpose, and then they thought of something better to replace it. So they now like communicating with their securities or communicating with store businesses and stuff and saying like, whoa, these public investigators, they're a nuisance because they are the ones that are causing the trouble. You wouldn't have a problem because the mainstream are not looking at you and the police is not interested. So until something serious happens, until someone gets killed, then we'll step in and do something about it, or they'll make something up and still go in there and start tearing things apart. They don't necessarily need you to break the law because they could just not like you and start mistreating you. If you have examples of mistreatment, by all means link those in the chat. I'll be more than happy to have you featured on my channel to speak about your dealings with the authorities. So yeah, they're allowing people that are doing these investigations them to be assaulted, and then they're they're saying that the reason that the assault was aggravated, which then draws in the manner. They automatically deem your manner as inappropriate. So because it's deemed as inappropriate, it's deemed as unwarranted and in some instances seen as disgusting. Um, the course of an assault is necessary in order to prevent you from filming, and they will allow that to happen. And that's what I believe is where we're at with the situation. Why we're seeing numerous amounts of situations coming forward, and nothing's being done about them, because there's rights. Back to that situation as well. Like they deem you as illegal, so they allow illegal things to happen to you. Just some thoughts on it anyway. Yeah, welcome if it's your first time here. Please subscribe and all those things. So also, like a lot of these channels. So there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of attention on this, especially within the last 3 years. Standing outside of businesses and whether or not the authorities respect people's rights, or I think over in America it's the Constitution. You've got the First Amendment, whereas over in this country it's common law, civil law. I think there's also criminal law, and now common law is a lifestyle. Like a lot of this is news to me, and for me to give you all that information on those topics, you're not going to get that in an hour outside of a police station. You might get a few drops of legislation, but there was a guy. I was just listening to one guy. If you search common law truths, hammerhead, garage or garage. Yeah, this guy's done just a quick 10-minute video talking about it. It's a lot to it, and it's interesting because of the tyranny that people face, and that we do have rights and laws, but it's something that needs to be studied before you really get your foot in there. A lot of this jumping on the bandwagon, or like I know my section 33, I'll be okay, and I just see a lot of that's just vain confidence, because you've seen other people do it and they've managed to make a success. Yeah. But yeah, I can't really speak much on successful channels, because obviously I'm still new. I'm still babbers on this channel. And anything, I think the average age is about two years a YouTube channel. So yeah, we're still quite new, I think. But yeah, I don't see a lot of these things being spoken about, other than other problems in other places. Like we're just literally being distracted with wars and with dramas and fighting. That when it comes to I don't know, yeah. But yeah, a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon of the, exposing, and the truth is, um, and like I said, yeah, like all the best. Hopefully you can, oh no, I'm still streaming. Yeah, hopefully you can get some good out of it. Get subscribers and fan base and all that. Um, but yeah, no, I wanna thank you all for staying with this channel, or if it's first time here on this channel, welcome. Uh, but yeah, it's interesting that the false accusers are able to make accusations like the police do that are false, that never happened, and it would also go uninvestigated. Um, and I think that's also the law, like the difference between the States and the UK. Um, but we still do get armed responses um, occur, and as a consequence, if it's deemed to be unlawful, then there must be compensation for the trauma and the stress that have been caused. But that there doesn't seem to be a lot of attitude towards the false accusers that want to deem something that isn't necessarily suspicious to be then a threat. Doesn't that make sense? Do you need to have like a box that's like, I don't know, I'm trying to do size comparisons to things. Um, I can't even think. I could. There's like a lunchbox, like on your shoulder, with a camera sticking out of it. Like and it says like news media on the side. Is that enough then to raise people's suspicions that something is occurring, about to occur, or has occurred? Reasonable articulable suspicion. But they don't need that. They don't want to do investigations. Just anything that they can do to pass the blame onto the victim, to say, well, like you were looking attractive, and that's why you were raped. Which is basically what, like, this is what falls down to the argument that I'm making. That something that's lawful has now become deemed as terrorism, and those that are displaying terroristic attitudes or behaviors are then deemed as lawful, because what you're doing is terrorism. So terrorism towards terrorism is acceptable. And they're also saying that what the false accusers are doing is legal. They're saying that they can lie to the police, and the police won't then investigate the lie because they probably got it wrong, or they didn't think that it would that it would potentially put your life at risk, because the police are there to deal with emergency situations where people's lives are at risk. Um, so yeah, do some research. I'm definitely need to do some more on those three topics: the common law, civil law, and criminal law. How they obviously differentiate, and uh, and obviously cases, like case law. So if you could find previous cases where the judge has ruled in favour in respects to your argument, then that would always be handy. But with this new legislation, it really does just like the Coronavirus Act, the Emergency Act of 2024. If those are which are live, is not there's not soon to be looked at, like that period had passed. And so they can enact these um, draconian measures. So yeah, like a channel like this would probably get you red flag. Well, I'm probably red flag. Because the FBI don't like they watch what you watch. So yeah, I'm back on the Corona Act of 2020. Duty of local authority to assess needs of Scotland's NHS and local authority care and support. That statement sounds disturbing. Local authority care and local authority care and support. I hate that word. Care. Okay, appointments. Time limit in relation to urgent warrants. Oh, okay, so we're looking at subsection 23, the Coronavirus Act. Okay, time limits in relation to urgent warrants, etc., under Investigatory Powers Act. The power in subsection is accessible if the investigatory powers commissioner notifies the Secretary of State that, in the commissioner's opinion, the power needs to be exercised in response to the powers need to be exercised in response to the effects that coronavirus is having or is likely to have on the capacity of the judicial judicial commissioners to carry out their functions. On the capacity of judicial commissioners to carry out their functions. So powers. So yeah, commissioners' opinion. The power needs to be exercised in response to the effect that coronavirus is having or likely to have, and it's so that the judicial commissioner to carry out their functions. I think I was reading this in the previous video, so I think we'll move on. I think I got to like 28, 29. Meaning of food supply chain in related expression. Yeah, did he brought a new meaning to food supply chain? Right. Meaning of. It says meaning of, and then go to textual amendment. Yeah, the England and Wales. The following section act expires on the day. Does not affect. Paragraph 1C does not affect the continued operation of the coronavirus, retention of fingerprints and DNA profiles in the interest of national security. Wow, so they need fingerprints and DNA in the interest of national security. And that, what has that got to do with this subsection though? Subsection 29, meaning of food supply chain and related expression. So what? So people's DNA and people's fingerprints is the new meaning towards the food supply chain. Like, are you right? Huh? What? No. What that would mean? Suspension of requirement to hold inquest with jury. Deaths in custody from natural illness, Northern Ireland. Vaccines and immunization, Scotland. Temporary closures of educational institutions and childcare premises. Yeah, you got to remember to put that in there. So there's 3 parts in this. Literally, you open up a section and there's nothing that you can read. Yeah. Let's go back. There's nothing. Unless I go back to the 2020. Ah, there we go. Yeah, that's probably where I got it wrong, and we're missing a lot of this information as we got to go back to the original statement. Okay, part 1. So yeah, we might have to go back to a few subsections now that I've somewhat figured this Wikipedia out. Okay, part 1, Schedule 16 makes provision enabling the Secretary of State, the Welsh Minister, to give directions for the restrictions of attendance at premises used for the provision of education or childcare. Okay, so that means nurseries as well. Makes provision enabling the Scottish Minister to give direction to restrict access to schools and other education premises. The Department of Education in Northern Ireland to give directions, yep. The Department of Education in Northern Ireland to give yep. Okay, alright, and then what's the next provision? Okay, makes provision enabling the Secretary of State to give directions for the restriction of attendance at premises used for the provision of education and healthcare, which makes provisions enabling the Scottish Minister to give directions to restrictions to schools and other educational premises. The Department of Health in Northern Ireland to give directions requiring the temporary cessation of childcare provisions. I don't know what. Okay, so it says this version of this provision has been superseded. Um, and again, this part of the provision has been superseded. And then you go to the point in view time at status. So so what the hell? So they're giving all these updated versions for the new subsection and saying, oh yeah, this previous one is not in motion, but trying to get to the information is redacted. I'm looking at three subsections which has been the information is not there. Like, hopefully somebody looking at this as well as me is able to give some understandings. All it's talking about is that to give the Secretary of State the permission to close down schools and childcare premises, and that's it. It's not like, yeah, shut down the schools until yeah, just shut them down. And that's like 4 years into the pandemic, and that's still like their option. Just shut it down. You know, we won't extend their education. We'll just shut it down. All right, so we'll go back to some of these other subsections. But even so, I don't imagine. Oh, I don't want to say that. I can't really see there being a lot of information to be, but I'll still try and see what. So restrictions on use and disclosure of information. That's what we finished on last time. Perspective. So that's what it says. It's perspective. This version of the provision is perspective. Well, question mark. Status. The term provision is used to describe a defined element in the piece of legislation that has legislative effects such as a part, character, or section. A version of a provision is perspective either whether the provision, part, chapter, or section has never come into force, or where the text of the provision is subject to change, but no date has yet appointed by the appropriate person or body for those changes to come into force. Oh, wow. Wow. What? Where the text of the provision is subject to change. So this is the reason why it's not. But no date has been yet appointed by the appropriate person or body for those changes to come into force. Commencement orders listing the changes to legislation blocks are not yet applied may bring this prospective version into force. So they're saying that the reason that is, I don't know, I don't think I can fully comprehend what's being spoken on that. Like, if I'm being truthful, because I can give you my perspective on it, but what does that count for? What it's actually saying? But basically, there's nothing here. to look at about the censorship. I think I had found more, probably on one of the emergency acts, but they've added it to the bill. They've added it to the act, but there's no description and there's no date of which it was implemented to when it started, and there's no like timeline. It just says like, or is it 27? Oh, no, 20. Yeah, 27. Just says perspective, and it's just got a timeline of just going forward. Like it doesn't look as though it's gonna end, but it also looks like it hadn't started. Like that is something that's always been. It's like, oh yeah, well, we know we've been doing this since forever, so let's put it in and just be vague about it. Be real vague. Okay, so means first, food supply. The same again for food supply. Meaning of food supply chain. The same way that it's been formulated, like put together on this coronavirus act. It has no date like the other act, like the other parts of the act where it says. Let's just find one. 25th of the 3rd, 2020. And other dates. It just says like perspective. Authorities which may require information. Perspective again. This version of this provision is perspective. No starting date, no end date in sight. What else? Oh yeah, the powers. Alright, limited time limits in relation to urgent warrants under investigative powers. So this one, yeah, it started back to 2020. Okay, point in time view. This version has been superseded. This one has been superseded. So what, the 2021 status, point in time view. Yeah, I think I was reading this earlier. But there's obviously been amendments. And it's got a start date, unlike some of these other parts. Powers to suspend port operations. Now that is what's messed the port operations. This was messed up a lot of the trade. Power to suspend port operations. Power to relating to potential infectious person. Powers relating to potentially. So not for the fact that it's clearly been established. We don't know if you are. So we're going to treat you as though you are, or that you have had, because there's that potential. Been superseded, and then you go into it, and there's nothing there. It says powers relating to potential infectious person, and then a load of full stops. and yet the previous ones were superseded. Schedule 21 confers powers relating to potential infectious persons and makes related provisions. Apparently that's been superseded, but wouldn't elaborate um, on how that is to be. But like just doesn't really break down much further into that. Doesn't even say like what disease. But obviously it's coronavirus. Powers relating to events, gathering, and premises. Even your premises, gatherings, and your premises. And premises, not your premises, but and premises. Powers to issue directions relating to events, gatherings, and premises. Direction, where you should be headed. Courts, tribunals, use of video and audio technology. Oh yes, here we go. Oh, this is expansion of availability of live links in criminal proceedings. So yeah, we want some court live streams. That would be interesting to see some of these tyrant judges. Expansion of availability of live links of other criminal hearings. Publication in proceedings conducted by video or audio. So more transparency, apparently, but it's obviously the mainstream. Live links in magistrates' court appeals against requirements or restrictions imposed on a potential infectious person. I have to say that again. Live links in magistrates' court appeals against requirements or restrictions imposed. So they're putting requirements or restrictions imposed on potentially infectious person. Requirement, you need 7 vaccines. Restriction, you see nobody. And you're in prison. Oh, and here's another jab. Here's another vaccine. Use of live links in legal proceedings in Northern Ireland. Powers in relation to bodies, powers in relation to transportation, storage, and disposals of dead bodies, etc. So yeah, powers relating. So courts and tribunals. That's interesting then. So if the expansion, if they're allowing audio and video to then go over into the courtrooms, then you'd be allowed to record in the courtrooms, which is something that they're still adamant today. Like they don't even want you recording the court, like building, let alone the actual courtrooms. So, and that's because they turn off the audio when they don't want something to be heard in the general public, or they have to create their own private space. Like they go back into the back chambers to have those conversations. But obviously, if people are recording in their spaces, then it's all going to be like put out there. Especially if it's live streamed, there's no like censorship unless it's being scrutinized before it leaves the premises. Postponement of elections in Wales, Scotland. This says postponement for elections in Wales and in Scotland, but it doesn't say anything about England. So elections due to be held in Wales in the period after 15th of March 2020. Postponement of National Assembly for Wales election for constituency vacancies. Powers to postpone local authority elections in Wales for casual vacancies. Power to make supplementary, etc. provisions. Postponement of elections, Scotland, other administrative requirements, signature of Treasury Commissioner, signatures, national insurance contributions. Powers under Section 143 of the Social Security Administration Act. This section applies to an order made under Section 143 of the Social Security Administration Act of 1992. Power to alter contributions. Contributions. If it is made on or after 19th of 2020 March. Alright, the day before the end of the period of 2 years, beginning with the day on which the act is passed, it brings not increase a figure referred to in section 143 of that act above the figure that would apply on, ignoring the effects of any order made under such an act. Sections 143 of that act has effect in relation to an order to which this section applies, as if the words from with a view to future period were omitted. And what's this pertaining to? National insurance contributes power to make supplementary, etc. provisions. So this is going back from 25th, 2020. I'm sorry if I've read this already, but I just want to have a quick check. The Secretary of State or the Minister of for the Cabinet Office may, by regulations made by statutory instrument, make consequential supplementary incidental, transitional, or saving provision in connection to section 60 to 62 or relations made under them. Regulations made under section 1 may in particular make provision about acts or omissions in connection with an election, referendum, or recall petition period to its postponement, including provision disabling any enactment imposing criminal liability in respect of such act or omission. Things that have yet to be done in connection with an election, referendum, or recall petition period to its postponement. The conduct of election, referendum, or recall petition that has been postponed, or steps to be taken in respect to such election, referendum, or recall petitions, the manner of voting in election or referendum, or of signing of recalling petition that has been postponed, the term of office of incumbent office holders or those elected at a postponed election, nomination of candidate. The power to make regulations under Section 1 is capable of being exercised so as to amend, repeal, or revoke any enactment. And the subsection enactment has the same meaning as in Section 92. Statutory instrument containing regulations under subsection 1 is subject to annulment in pursuant of the resolution of either House of Parliament. I have to find out all that about that section 60 and 62. But that's just talking about postponement. HMRC functions. Yeah, how is HMRC fall into the seeing as they've got a subsection in order financial assistance for industry? That sounds like that don't sound good. HMRC, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. They obviously haven't updated this. Or to have such functions as the Treasury may direct in relation to coronavirus or coronavirus disease. The power conferred under this provision to make a direction may be exercised by means of notice published in the Gazette. So HMRC are acting as the Treasury and may direct in relation to coronavirus or coronavirus disease. For which is it? Wow, that's mad. So it's like they've got coronavirus and the disease is two separate things, but it's the same thing. So how could it be two separate things? Unless it's like the business front and then like the insurance. Behind it. Uprating for tax credit. Uprating of working tax credit. You heard that correct? Uprating. We'll go back to the original. This version has been superseded. So we're going to still read it anyway. Uprating of working tax credit. In working tax credit, entitlements and maximum rate regulations 2020 in the table in Schedule 2. Basic element has effect in relation to the tax year 2001 220 to 221, as if the amount specified in the second column, maximum annual rate, were X amount. The modifications made by subsection 1 does not apply for the purposes of any annual review carried out in accordance with subsection 41 of the Tax Credit Act of 2002, where the sum mentioned in subsection 100 of the Social Security Administration Act of 1992 annual review in relation to uprating of benefits, modified in relation to tax year For purposes connected with coronavirus or coronavirus disease, modification does not apply for the purposes of any annual review carried out in accordance with that section. And then you go to look at the newer updated version. Point in time, the 9th of December 2021. You're looking at 3 sections with nothing, with no writing. Then there's the textual amendments. I'll go down there. For England and Wales, so it's like citations, and literally says nothing. These regulations may be cited as the Coronavirus Act, early expiry regulations 2021. These regulations come into force on the day after. They come into force. Which section of the acts come into force? Okay, here we go. Here's the changes that they put to this. This part, early expiry of provision of the Act as far as they apply in England. The following provisions of the Act expire on the day after. Okay, the entries in the table. The Further and Higher Education Act of 1992. The Further and Higher Education Act 1992. Education Act of 1996, and all the subsections. So yeah, there's just a lot of different acts. The School Standards and Framework Act, the Child Care Act, the Education and Skills Act, the Child and Families Act, Part 2. So let's have a look at 1. What's that all about? So Education Act 2025 is up to date with all changes known to be in force on or before the 2nd of October 2024. These are changes that may be brought into force at a future date. But yeah, they don't want to give up the details in respect of what they're talking about within this part, or maybe I'm too stupid to find it. What else? Yes. Distinguished. Keep going. Yes. So yeah, HMRC, they're acting like Treasury. Extension of bid arrangement. BID, Business Improvement Districts, England. But they don't want businesses to improve. They don't want independent businesses to be striving, as I see it anyway. Okay, so Business Improvement District. So that's bid arrangement. If they are enforced, we've the period, Alright, ballot under Section 49 of the Local Government Act 2023 to the 2003 Act has taken place before the day on which the Act is passed, and the Business Improvement District for the bid arrangement proposed in the ballot is the same or substantially the same as the Business Improvement District for which the current bid arrangements are in force, and the date for the coming into force of the proposed bid arrangements is after the day on which this act this act is passed, or the ballot under subsection 54 of the 2003 Act for the renewal of the current bid arrangement has taken place before the day on which this act is passed. Bid arrangement to which the subsection applies as to be read as if the period specified in the arrangement of the period specified in the arrangements as the period for which they are in force ended on 2021. The arrangement specified a chargeable period beginning on the day after the 2020 expiry date and ending on 31st of May, the chargeable period. The arrangements provided for the amount of bid levy chargeable for the 2021 chargeable period to be calculated in the same manner as for the last 2020 chargeable period and to be apportioned on a just and reasonable basis where the 2021 chargeable period is not the same length as the last 2020 chargeable period, and the description of non-domestic ratepayers specified in the arrangement as liable for bid levy for the 2021 chargeable period were the same as specified in the last 2020 chargeable period. The last 2020 chargeable period is the last chargeable period specified by the bid arrangement to end on or before the 2020 expiry date. The requirement in subsection 54 of the 2023 Act that the period for which bid arrangements have effect may not exceed 5 years does not apply to bid arrangements to which this section applies. Nothing in this section prevents the termination or alteration of bid arrangements in accordance with regulations under Section 54(4) of the 2003 Act. Expressions under this section and in Part 4 of the 2003 Act have the same meaning in this section as they have in that part. The section binds the Crown. This section does not apply in relation to Wales. Chargeable periods. Bid. Business Improvement District. Sounds like a hustle to me. Yeah, sounds like some insurance. Somewhat going on. I don't know. Business Improvement Districts. So that was England, and they've got another one, extension for Northern Ireland. Wales is not included. Well, Wales is not having that business improvement districts. Probably for this sustainable nonsense. Residual tenancies in England and Wales. Protection from evictions. Well, what protections? People have been getting evicted and all sorts. So what protections? This version of the provision has been superseded. Okay, well, where's your superseded version? Textual amendments. Let's go and have a look at that. Nope, going to the textual amendments. There's nothing there. Oh. I guess they're still working on it. Still thinking about how they're going to articulate it. Uprating of working tax credit, local authority meetings. Local authority meetings. Wow, this is at a It's had multiple changes. Double multiple, yo. This part has been superseded. Alright, let's go to the latest. Okay, I think that's it. 21st of 2023, September. Okay. The relevant national authority may be made by regulations make provisions relating to requirements to hold local authority meetings, the time at or by which period within which or frequency with which local authorities meetings are to be held, the places in which yada yada. The provisions may be made by virtue of subsection 1D, includes in particular provisions for persons to attend, speak out, vote in, or otherwise participate in local authority meetings without all of the persons or with any of the persons being together in the same place. So they can do it online, they don't need to be in the same room. The regulations may make provisions only in relation to the local authority meetings required to be held or held before. The power to make regulations under this section includes powers to disable or modify any provision of any enactment or subordinate legislation to make different provision for different purposes. For different purposes. To make different provision for different purposes. The power to make regulations under this section includes powers to disable or modify any provision of an enactment or subordinate legislation. Subordinate, so everything's will be subordinate. This has got to be superior because it's new. To make different provision for different purposes. You know this is about coronavirus, right? Like, some people got to die, some people got to live. Like, what's the different purposes? What's it? To make consequential, supplementary, incidental, transitional, or saving provision. There's a lot of ors in that one statement. To make consequential, supplementary, incidental, transitional, or saving provision. Or transitional from to killing to saving. In this section, the relevant national authority means, so relevant national authority means, in relation to local authorities, England, the Secretary of State, in relation to Wales, the Welsh Minister, in relation to local authorities in Northern Ireland, Department for Committees in Northern Ireland, so Secretary of State, England, better take a note of that. In this section, local authority meeting means a meeting of local authority. Yeah, I don't care about what your local authority is. Oh no, well, let's have a look. An executive of local authority within the part 1A and 2 of the Local Government Act 2000 or Part 6 of the Local Government Act Northern Ireland 2040, joint committee of 2 or more local authorities, a committee or subcommittee of anything within paragraph A to C. In this section, local authority relation to England means a county district, a county council, a district council, a London Borough Council, the Common Council of the City of London, the Greater London Authority, the Council of the Isles of Scilly. I'm not making this up. Parish Council, probably butchering the name. A joint board continued in being by virtue of Section 263 of the Local Government Act. So some joint board, Port Health Authority constituent under Section 2 of the Public Health Control of Disease Act. The Port Health Authority constituent an authority established under Section 10 of the Local Government Act, a joint authority established under Part 4. The list goes on. A joint committee constituted by a local planning authority under Section 29 of the Planning and Compulsory Purchase Act of 2024. A combined authority established under Section 103 of the Local Democracy Economic Development and Construction Act of 2009. A Fire and Rescue Authority, a National Park Authority, the Broads Authority, a Conservation Board, an Appeal Panel, a Mayoral Development Corporation, an Urban Development Corporation, a Parish Council meeting, Transport for London. These are your local authorities in England. I have to take a break. Enjoy. I'm back. I'll do a little bit more on this. Provisions. Well, a bit more on the Coronavirus Act. And I talk a bit more on this. Back to title of the message. So yeah, we're looking at local authorities. On the Coronavirus Act. Alright, go back. Because that was like. Yeah, I think it was to do with local authority meetings. And also what is deemed as local authority. Part 2, the final provisions. Power to alter expiry date. Commencement powers to suspend and revive provisions in this act. Expiry. Interpretation. 6 months. Parliamentary review. But yeah, man with a camera. Yeah, there's obviously events which are really like minor and really don't need bringing forward to people's attention, especially if you're not really like bothered about it. If you're willing to let things go, because I think that's something that we definitely need to do more as people to obviously have mercy, forgiveness, loving kindness. But I mean, and then sometimes you got to be David, and you got to go out and take down a giant. So sharpen that stick. Because 5,000 problems can be defeated with just one wooden stick. I'm not gonna talk much more on this today. I think I've said quite a lot. But yeah, I know people either don't know about this act or they're too afraid to really speak up about it because, well, just look at recent history. There's been backlash, but then that kind of, well, yeah, I mean, people lost their jobs. You know, people that were trained professionals, like within their field, are putting their careers or their lives on the line because they don't agree with mandating pronouns on people. They don't agree with your false doctrines, and so they create new doctrines. You know, like with this legislation, it's vague, but there's enough there to really do a lot of damage within society. I haven't even spoke today about the hate crime laws. think that's where we're going to leave it. 1985. I might have to watch that to kind of really understand it a bit more. I mean, I'm still seeing a lot of this as Animal Farm. That was an Orwell book, but again, I'm probably missing a lot from that book. I just remembering it going left or going right. It's just like, yeah, we're not what you would expect from a kid's book. But great, yeah, great story, great book. Oh, and yeah, that channel I quoted earlier, that's definitely one. I'm gonna have to go to. I didn't save his thing. To get some more understanding with common law, and civil law and criminal law, because common law is a lifestyle. You're private. You're not public. You're not an organization. But yeah, those are my thoughts on it. And I don't see, I don't see the situation really improving, because they feed off of this, and that's just what's going to contribute towards civil unrest, because you can't walk down the street without accusing somebody of recording you just because they're holding their phone out in public. Uh, but yeah, I cannot make sense of it all, other than how I've articulated it in order for it to work out in my head anyway. Um, but yeah, like, you're all a bunch of terrorists. You're right wingers, but they obviously they love the left, right? Because that's where their heart is. The heart is in the left hand. I'll take a copy of the panel. I'll drop the link. See if anybody wants to join. No, I don't know. Playing out. It's not letting me put the link down there. Alright, now it will. Put the link down if anybody does want to come up. More than welcome to get your channel. Get your channel out there. Hopefully get you some subscribers. Ooh. you know, what was one of the memes? Like one of the things that they would say during the coronavirus was that we need to flatten the curve. Was what they said. I think it was what they said. Because there's too many people dying. They need to flatten the curve. We bet. So yeah, like legal illegal activity is now deemed as terrorism. It's now deemed as suspicious behaviour. Um, even though we're in like times of heightened security, so say with the extremism from a certain peaceful religion. Ooh. Uh, so you would think like a few more extra cameras that don't suddenly disappear. Um, they would welcome that. They would welcome the transparency. The same with if somebody had cameras on a business and a crime had occurred, you wouldn't want that footage to suddenly like disappear if it's gonna land a conviction on somebody that's done a terrible act and that had been doing it like knowingly. But no, it's suspicious. It's cause for alarm and investigating for the risk of people's lives as the consequences of your actions, um, which I have in writing. Like that's how it's understood that transparency is not warranted, even though it's something that they've said they reckon they're going to put more transparency into the courts. I still yet to really see that. Um, but then they are doing the post office inquiry. That's quite public, uh, as well as the Sports Direct's inquiry. Uh, it's so public. I've only seen a few bits of it from other commentators. But yeah, it's been a productive day. I think I feel like I've learned a lot today. And yeah, thank you for joining. Uh, and yeah, put your thoughts and stuff in the comments or your concerns. Write an email if you don't want people to see, uh, or the government to see what your thoughts are. Do an email, and I guess there'll be more chances of it being private. Peace.